Center is sponsoring this parent or grandparent guardian workshop. Thank you for being here. And we really are doing this in the interest of working together with you, because we know that it takes more than a school, it takes more than a family to raise our kids. And so we value your partnership and want to do this together with you. This year we have talked with our kids, and in the previous years we've talked to our kids about zones. And when we talk about staying in the green, you're going to find out what that means today. Earlier this year, we actually kicked off our very first assembly with our kids, learning about what it means to be in the green, or what it means to be in the red or yellow, and then how to get themselves back into a space that is productive. So with that, we'll kick it off, and next slide. Oh, is that me? There we go. I get to do the slide. And I am on top of Julie Hatchell. I am the principal here at Morro Elementary. And we have my wonderful friend Tom Turner. He's a principal at Top of the World. And we're really making a conscious effort between our elementary schools to work together on focusing on our themes and our educational emphasis with our kids. So it's important that we are both here to kick this off and to share a little bit about what we're doing. Up to you, Tom.
Let's quickly get it off that slide with my picture. Thank you. If you haven't seen this before, this is the Laguna Beach Learner Profile. It's sort of the guiding light. It's all the principles that we want to make sure the conditions we create for students and what we want from them in their learning. One of the areas that I know that El Morro, Top of the World, and the district is focusing on, for instance, is empathetic citizen this year. How are we making our students better understand what it's like for others, how to be better and kind people, how to be helpful, not hurtful, right? All of those different aspects of being empathetic citizen. So, and these are hopefully things that will carry them beyond the district as they move on into their adult life as they graduate and leave us.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marianne Lawson. I'm the school counselor here at El Morro Elementary, and I'm going to introduce my colleague in just a moment. But just to give you a little bit of background information about my professional scope and practice, I was a classroom elementary teacher for over 17 years. So I've taught everything from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade, and I'll infuse that into some of today's practice in our strategies for parenting. But in addition to that, school counselor, obviously here at El Morro, but then in addition to that, I'm a mother of 3. I have a 16-year-old, I have a 15-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old. And you heard that right, I had Irish twins. So at some point, I had 2 kids under 2. And then when the baby fat all melted, I thought, you know what, let's do this all over again. You know, and so we got to deal with a lot of emotional dysregulation, and so I'd love to impart some of that wisdom along and infuse that with some of our competencies today. And my colleague, Bree.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Bree Anaya. I am the school counselor up at Top of the World. I have been a school counselor for, this is going on my 7th year now, so this will be my 3rd year in the district. And I really love talking about the zones. It's something I love teaching to the students as well too. And I am also a mom. I just have 1 baby and she's 2.5. So I know a lot about big toddler emotions. So anyone struggling with that, I would love to talk with you guys more about that as well.
So the purpose of today's Parenting Toolkit workshop is really to kind of get some strategies today, implement that at home. So I'm going to go over today's agenda. So today, welcome introductions. We're going to be understanding the 4 zones. We're talking about the zones of regulation. How are the zones used here at school? Next is strategies for supporting emotional regulation at home, or as you can see sometimes you have emotional dysregulation at home. Next is we're going to go over some role play and practices, and we're going to lean on you as parents and grandparents for your parental expertise to kind of navigate through these scenarios. And then last, we're going to have a wrap up and then question and answer. So our learning objectives today. Today we want you to learn for this particular session. We're going to provide parents and grandparents with knowledge, language, and strategies to support your children in recognizing and managing your emotions. And we're going to do this in 3 different ways. 1, emotional regulation is the ability to recognize, to manage, and direct one's physical state of feelings, thoughts, and actions in a healthy, proactive, and age-appropriate way. We're going to talk about that even more. Number 2, when we become dysregulated, or we call it flipping our lid, it can be harder to learn, build friendships, and solve problems. And so the goal of the zones of regulation today is to help children notice their feelings, apply strategies that bring them back to a calm and state of ready. While children develop these skills naturally, many benefit from having it explicitly taught, modeled, and practiced. So a lot of times we talk about this thing called EQ, or emotional intelligence. Some children already innately have that, and some of us, we have to model that for them to gain that perspective. So that's the objective for today's parenting workshop. And then I'd like to direct you to what we call the Castle 5 competencies. So in the world of SEL, we use this as our framework for posturing up to teach all students how to learn. So in the orange section here, self-awareness and self-management, we talked about emotional regulation and having the ability to develop a stronger EQ. Next is responsible decision making. So when we have flipped our lid and our frontal cortex is no longer working and we're working in the fight, flight, freeze, fawn part of our brain, the responsible decision making probably doesn't always happen. This is why we see behaviors, and so we're going to bring them back to the green zone and regulate. Next, having the social awareness and relationship skills either interpersonally in themselves or with others in social settings, right? And then we use this here in the classrooms and the school with the SEL, or social emotional learning curriculum. We have school-wide practices and policies, like Dr. Hatchell said. We had a beginning of the year positive behavior intervention and support assembly. We also have one in spring, and we both mirror each other at Top of the World and El Morro. And then family and connective partnerships in the home and the communities. And that's where we're bridging the gap, all three of us together. Okay?
Alrighty, so why emotional regulation matters, that's the whole point of our presentation today, because like we tell students at school, it's really hard to learn and be prepared to learn if we're not feeling our best. And I think we all as adults know that too. If we're not feeling our best emotionally, it's really hard to do the things that we need to do. It matters because it obviously helps them make better choices and increase focus and productivity because they're feeling good, but it also helps build those relationships. Something I talk to students a lot about is a lot of people notice how you behave, and so if you're someone that's always, dysregulated and not able to, cope with those big emotions and, taking anger out on other people and doing unexpected hurtful things to other people when you're upset, people are going to notice that, and that can affect, their relationships with others. And it also helps support their emotional well-being just in general. So we want to check in with you guys, and you guys can turn to whoever is at your table, but we want you guys to tell your partner next to you one feeling you've had so far this morning and how have you managed it. So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Would anyone like to share what they shared with their partner? What was the feeling? Yeah?
I was very overwhelmed this morning, but I feel very content here with you all now.
Okay, good.
So
I'm glad.
Yes. Maybe it's because the kids are already in class.
Yeah. You're not corralling them. Yes, yes. Okay, great. Anyone else? Did anyone share in the? Not yet. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I think it's normal, especially having little ones, for us to feel overwhelmed in the morning, stressed out, especially on a Monday, trying to get somewhere and get everyone out of the house and have everyone, eat and get dressed and ready for the day. And so, super normal to be feeling that way. But I'm glad you're feeling more content now. So, all right. So at our school, we use 2 curriculums to help students, understand their emotions, identify their emotions, and learn strategies to regulate their emotions. So the big and main curriculum that we use district-wide at the elementary schools is Second Step. This is something that we've been using for quite a few years now. Last year was the first year we started using the digital version of it, and it's great. It goes through a variety of things, not just talking about our emotions, but ways to resolve conflicts, empathy, anything else. There's other things too.
And coping strategies.
Yes.
So they have 3 that we go into classrooms from kinder all the way to 5th grade, and we teach this. So we'll teach this to you again. We'll have that in our parent resource guide. But these are 3 strategies to help bring it from a dysregulated state back down to the green. We'll talk about the colors, into an emotionally regulated state. Again, these strategies, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and try to come up with new phrases. We'll teach these strategies to you so that it becomes this universal language with your children at home, and then you can reference, because I'm sure that lots of you, as you're going through homework, if your child's teacher teaches specifically one way, and you say, oh, like if it's like math, right, and then you start to teach them the way that you learned, there's a huge clash, right? So I see a lot of headlines because they said, that's not how my teacher taught it, right? And then they'll shut down on you. So we're going to teach you some of the social emotional vocabulary so that you can put it in your parenting toolbox and enhance your child's social emotional toolbox as well.
And Second Step is something that's taught by their classroom teachers during their SEL block. That's what a lot of the teachers use to teach social emotional learning. But yeah, for Second Step, they really focus on teaching students to stop, name their feeling, and calm down. And I feel like the zones can go really well with that because it also is teaching the kids to stop, identify what zone you're in, you're feeling, and then use some kind of strategy to get back to the green zone. And so the one we're going to focus on today, though, is the zones, which I love for elementary age students because it's helping them identify their feeling by a color. So if they don't necessarily know their feeling, they start to understand the colors more, and then they're able to be like, I'm in the red zone, right? Or you can even say it, like, I notice you're in the red zone right now. Let's kind of figure out some strategies that we can use to bring that energy down, because that's how the zones are sorted, is by energy level, which we'll talk about in a second. So we're going to practice right away without knowing anything about the zones. We want to kind of get a feel for how you guys handle situations at home when you have one of your little ones or all of them all at the same time dysregulated. Okay, but imagine you just came home from work and you hear your 2 children arguing. We're going to leave whatever they're arguing about up to your imagination because you guys would probably know better what they argue about. But without using the zones framework, talk with your partner about how might you help them recognize their emotions. How do you do that now? And how you support them calming down. Okay, so we'll give you a couple minutes to talk with your partner about that. Okay, so understanding the 4 zones. So we'll get into it now. So when we talk about the zones of regulation, it is a tool to help students recognize and manage their emotions. And it sorts emotions into 4 different zones or colors or different states of alertness. So I put the mood meter on here because it kind of helps you understand how the emotions get sorted. Like the red zone emotions are those high energy, most of them are pretty unpleasant emotions to feel, unless, like I tell kids, you're elated, which they're like, what's that? I'm like, have you ever seen been to a professional soccer game and your team scores and everyone's screaming and jumping? That's what elated is. That's like a feel-good red zone emotion. But there are a few feel-good red zone emotions. But for the most part, they're high energy, unpleasant feelings to feel. The yellow zone is also very high energy emotions, and it's a mix of unpleasant versus pleasant emotions because they're silly and excited. And kids often get confused by that, and when I say, I know that's confusing, feels good to be silly and excited, but we can't learn when we're silly. It's really hard to focus and be the best learner that we can be if we're silly and excited. but other emotions in there, which we'll talk about in a second. And then blue zone are like those lower energy. All the emotions in there are like slow moving emotions, and some not so pleasant to feel, some pleasant, and then green zone is, where we want to be. But it's helping build independence in learning the energy of their emotions, and I like it too because it helps kids understand, oh, this is a high energy zone, so I need a strategy that's going to bring my energy down. This is a low energy zone, so I need a strategy that's going to bring my energy up. And they can, in regulating their emotions, it can help them resolve conflicts in healthier ways and understand how their behavior affects others. Again, another thing I really talk to students about is people notice when you're always doing unexpected things because you're dysregulated. And so it can affect your relationships with others. And this was created by Leah Kuipers, and she's an occupational therapist and educator, and she developed the zones of regulation. Okay, so here's the different zones. Again, I kind of already talked about this, but blue is low energy, not much motivation to participate. Green is like, that's where we feel great. We're attentive, we're feeling positive, we're ready to learn. Yellow is those uncomfortable emotions and again, a mixture of the pleasant feelings and unpleasant because these emotions make it hard to focus. And then the red zone is those strong emotions that can often cause our bodies to want to react harshly or in unexpected ways, as we say at the school. We'll talk to kids about, oh, that was unexpected that you did that. Okay. And so here's the blue zone. In the corner, we put little signs to kind of help you identify what each zone needs. So in the blue zone, these are those, low energy, lack of motivation, emotions that fall in this zone, like sad, sick, tired, bored. And so how we do this with students to help them better identify when we're in that zone is like, what do you notice is happening on your face, in your body? What sensations do you notice happen in your body when you're in this zone? Like, oh, if you're slouching and there's tears coming out of your eyes, that's a good sign that you're in the blue zone, right? If you're yawning or you're just moving really slowly, that's a sign that you're in the blue zone. So really helping them identify the sensations in their body and just noticing what their face and their body looks like, but also noticing what other people's faces and bodies look like. Again, to help, create that empathetic citizen, help them better be like, oh, that person looks upset. Maybe I can do something to help them. They look like they're in the blue zone. And so, again, we call this zone the rest area because this is the zone where those low energy emotions are at, so we need to do something to bring our energy up. So what I tell students is like, if you're sick, maybe you're going to stay home and you're going to rest. If you're tired in class, maybe you need to stretch, or you need to go get up and get a drink of water, or walk to the bathroom and splash some water on your face, right? Do something to wake yourself up. Or if you notice you're tired, at snack, you need to make it a priority or to eat a snack and give yourself some energy. And then these are just some examples of what we look like in the blue zone. Okay. And then here's our green zone. I always tell students this is the green light. I'm like, what does a green light mean when mom and dad are driving in the car? And they're like, go! I'm like, yeah, that means you're good to go and keep doing what you're doing because you're feeling happy, calm, focused, ready to learn. So this is the zone where we're going to be our best learner and we're probably doing a lot of expected things. We're being empathetic to others. This is the zone where we can help others. And really noticing, like, I notice I'm in the green zone because I'm sitting up straight. I'm focused on what the teacher's saying because I can hear and see everything clearly. I'm smiling, I'm responding respectfully. And so, again, just keep it up, you're doing great. And I always tell students, I say, what zone do we want to be in? Green. Okay, but are we always going to be in the green zone? No. And I always say, and that's okay. That we're human. We're not always meant to be feeling okay, right? Our feelings are telling us something about something that we like or we don't like, and it's helping others learn what we like and don't like, and helping us learn what we like and don't like. So our emotions are okay, but we need to understand that when we're not in the green zone, we still need to act in expected ways and find ways to calm down respectfully so we're not hurting others with our words or with our body. And then here's some examples of what the red zone looks like, or green zone. Okay. And then the yellow zone, this is where we feel like a mixture of those unpleasant and pleasant emotions, silly, excited. This is where anxious, worried, nervous is, right? Frustrated, because this is the zone where we say you're starting to lose a little bit of your control. You're starting to like grunt a little bit, or you want to like maybe rip something, or you're squirmy or fidgety and you can't sit still. So your body, again, really helping them notice those cues in their body. So like, oh no, I'm not in the green zone. I'll have kids in my office like, I'm in the green zone, and they're like, can't sit still. I'm like, ooh, you look a little excited too, So it's really hard to focus or pay attention. Or if they're feeling those more unpleasant, maybe they're frowning, or they're having a little bit more negative self-talk, like I can't do this is so hard, and kind of noticing their thoughts that are coming with each of the zones as well too. And so this is the zone where they need to slow down and use some strategies to kind of gain back that control. And that can look like, and again, because these emotions are high energy, strategies that are bringing the energy down are appropriate, like talking to someone about what's frustrating you or what's making you worried or nervous, writing down your feelings. Again, we're going to talk about age-appropriate strategies. We can't have our toddler really write down their feelings, but you guys can have your upper elementary students or middle school or high school students journal about their feelings. Closing your eyes, counting. Again, we'll talk about more of those strategies in later slides. And here's some examples of what that looks like. Okay. And then the red zone is our fourth and final zone. This is where we feel really dysregulated. It's very high energy emotions, angry, scared. Students get confused with scared. They sometimes think it's in the yellow zone, but it's actually in the red zone. I'm like, think about when you get scared, you jump, or you like want to hit, like you don't have control of your body. You want to scream, right? And this is the zone where we're out of control. This is when we want to do those unexpected or hurtful things to someone, or say really hurtful things to someone because our emotions are so high. And so again, having them notice, and these are the zones too where we really want them to identify what sensations they're feeling in your body. Like I always tell students, when I'm in the red zone, I know because my hands are shaking. Like when I'm really angry, my hands are shaking. Or you feel really hot and just red, or you notice you're all clenched, so really helping them notice that. So as they're noticing that, oh, I'm in the red zone, they can be better about quickly finding a strategy to calm down. So this is the zone where everything just needs to stop. So like what some of you guys are saying, where you just separate your two kids and make them get away from each other and take a break, that's super appropriate for the zone. Just stop and move away from each other before it gets escalated to something more. And then we always talk to students about many of our emotions require lots of strategies. So when you're separating them, right, and you're having them stop whatever they're doing, that's also a time where they're taking a break and they can use additional strategies to calm down. Go in your room and listen to some music. Go in your room and color and draw. Go in your room and punch a pillow, right? And just listen to music and punch a pillow. I don't know, right? But having them understand, like, we're gonna need multiple strategies for most of our emotions to really feel regulated and calm again. Sometimes it's not just a quick couple deep breaths and we feel better. It takes more than that. And just here's some examples of that. Okay, so now that we understand each of the zones and what feelings go into each of the zones, you can turn to your partner now and let your partner know what zone are you in today. And you can either base it off of what you were feeling this morning. You could even say, this morning I was in this zone, but now I'm in this zone. But go ahead and share that with your partner. Yes, thank you so much. But that's where we're going to now is the strategies and the tools. And each kid is so different. What works with one of your children might not work with them. Everyone, I was in a meeting last week, and I was talking with parents about how each of their kids has different sensory needs. So and I was like, oh, that's something that's so good to think about. Like when you're trying to calm down your child, maybe one kid really likes some deep pressure, squeezes, right? Where my daughter, or little tickles or whatever it is, my daughter doesn't like the tickles. Even last night she thought, no mommy, not the tickles. That does not make her feel calm. So it's just truly thinking about each of your children and kind of figuring out what you notice helps them feel regulated. Because each kid is different. Some kid is one kid could be they really need those physical coping strategies. They need to go out and run a lap and do some jumping jacks and some wall push-ups or play a sport or whatever it might be. Squeeze a stress ball really hard, or even just squeeze a stuffed animal as hard as they can to where their whole body is shaking because they're squeezing it so tight. So some kids really need that physical coping strategy, where others need just and again, it also varies with emotions too, some kids, when I go into classroom lessons and I teach this, it's so funny. Most kids, especially the older ones, are bringing up, I like to punch a pillow, or I like to punch a punching bag. And so they like that, or scream into a pillow. That one's a really popular one too. So getting that energy out. But again, it also varies with their emotions. If they're sad, they're probably not feeling the need to scream into a pillow, right? They might need to get creative or color, draw, or get outside and get some fresh air, play a game with their family and have that family connection, right? Or just talking with someone. Some kids, they don't like to talk about their feelings. So that's where it's finding the age-appropriate ways for them to express their feelings if talking about it is really hard. Okay, you don't need to talk to me about it, but you can draw or write or find another outlet to get those feelings out. Did you have something? So here's some coping strategies by age, because again, at different ages, they need different things. And I think that's the hard thing about being a parent is you're oh yes, I got it down, and then they're in a whole new stage of something, and you're never mind, I don't have it down. But for toddlers, they really need all of our support in identifying their emotions, and you tell them, oh, you look sad right now, and then you're helping them with the self-soothing, right? Because they don't understand that yet. Preschoolers, you're just learning to label those basic emotions: happy, sad, angry, scared, right? And then you're modeling a lot of the strategies or doing a lot of the strategies with them. Elementary, you can now kind of introduce more complex emotions like anxious, frustrated, nervous, worried, right? And then you're practicing coping skills with them and talking with them what did you notice worked for you? Did you like how that strategy felt, or did you not really like that? Helping them kind of figure out, oh no, that didn't really help me that much, Mom, right? Or that one actually I really liked, right? Because now they're at the age where they can tell if it works or does not work. And then for tweens, right, they're able to name their emotions, maybe not wanting to talk to you about them, but they can name them. And they can use more simple coping skills, still needing more that support of identifying more complex ones, but they can at least identify some simple coping skills and be using them. But again, they're still needing that coaching, just as our high schoolers are too, right? But for high schoolers, and I think even with our tweens, validating their emotions, and letting them know it's okay that you feel this way right now. I think that goes for all the ages, even in elementary school, helping them identifying it and saying, it's okay that you're feeling this. Let's figure out what we can do to help you feel better, right? And then, having them practice different strategies as well too. So we kind of identify different strategies, for the younger ones, These are some great books. B is for breathe, breathe like a bear. Some physical coping skills. And again, I know that the visual is for younger students, but even older kids need that physical outlet of getting their emotions out too. And then for, the older kids, they might need like some social support and connection. They need to like hang out with friends or, spend time, with someone they love and just have one-on-one time with you, especially if you're having kids like, if you have multiple kids and you're noticing one is dysregulated, maybe they're needing that one-on-one time with you to really feel, more grounded and regulated. Journaling would be something an older child could do. Talk therapy, that's something that's even available for elementary students. So, the list goes on with different strategies. It's truly just finding what works for them and building their toolbox. And I always say that to kids. You can go to the next line. You're feeling and using strategies to calm down, because our strategies are the things that help us regulate our emotions and get back to the green zone. So really having that moment to step away from the person that's upsetting you. Step away from the thing. Like, Miss Lawson said, it could be homework that's, making your child feel dysregulated. It could be a video game. It could be learning how to ride their bike. Whatever it is, stopping whatever they're doing or stopping interacting with the person that's upsetting them and stepping away from it so they can take the time to identify how they're feeling and truly understand how they're feeling and use appropriate strategies to calm them down. And whenever I'm teaching this in counseling sessions or in my classroom lessons, I always remind students, you need a toolbox of strategies. You can't just say, well, deep breaths is what I do. It's like, no, because deep breaths doesn't always help us. It does kind of bring us down and slow our heart rate, so it's good to do whenever we're feeling dysregulated. But we also need, many emotions take multiple strategies before we start to feel more calm. So helping them understand, I always say you need strategies because at school, at home, and that you can use anywhere. Because when I talk to students in classroom lessons about this or groups, they're like, oh, well, I like to go take a nap. Or I like to cuddle with my pet. And I said, as much as I would love to have my dog here at work with me and cuddle him, we can't do that. So we have to have strategies that we can use at school, strategies that we can specifically use in the classroom that we can use while sitting at our desk, strategies that we can use out on the playground, strategies that we can use at home, and strategies that we can use anywhere, if we're in the car, if we're out shopping, if we're whatever. So a toolbox of strategies is super important, but that takes talking about different strategies, helping them see all the different strategies that are available, understanding kind of their sensory needs and what things aggravate them sensory-wise or calm them down sensory-wise, and really helping them actually practice the strategies so they can see if it works. Because if they're like, well, my friend likes to, ride his bike, right? That might not be exactly what your child needs to feel regulated, right? So we always say, just because your friend likes to use one way to calm down, it doesn't mean that's going to work for you. And then Miss Lawson, she went to Challenge Success a couple weeks ago, and something she, added to the slides and going to that was, which I loved, was inviting them to invite your children to your calm, do not subscribe to their chaos. And I came across this article last week, and it couldn't have fit more with this. It's like we've all been there. You have your toddler covered in spaghetti and running around the house. You have your elementary child, screaming and fighting with the other child. And then maybe you have your high schooler who's pounding the wall mad at the video games, and then all of a sudden the dog starts barking, and you're so overstimulated, and you just look at your toddler who's screaming, and you're like, stop crying! What are you doing, right? So, and we've all been there. I've even been there lots of times with my own toddler, even knowing all these things that I know, and we can't help it. We get overstimulated ourselves, but if you, before you react in that moment, can be like, I'm in the red zone. I'm gonna do something to calm myself down in a minute, but I'm gonna try to regulate the family first, right? The calmer you are in that approach, I think everyone can get, farther in helping their child calm down, because the way they're watching everything that we do, So if you can model, hey, you know what? Mommy right now is in the yellow zone. I am so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. I need all of us to just take a second and stop what we're all doing. And let's just sit together for a second. Or mommy's gonna walk away for a second and just, go splash some water on her face. And as you're talking out, like how you're feeling, what zone you're in, and what strategies you're gonna use, they're noticing that, But ultimately the article was like, try your best to not subscribe to, to their chaos, and instead say, hey, I see that you're upset. Let's get through this together. Let's figure out how we can both calm ourselves down together, because mommy's feeling upset too. And it's okay that you're upset, right? And trying to teach after the storm is another really great thing to remember too, because as many of you have mentioned, it's really hard to teach in the moments when they're dysregulated.
Okay, Emma, it's time to go.
No.
Yes.
No.
Go.
When children don't have the ability to express themselves with words, they show us with their behavior. They need your help to learn how to deal with big emotions in healthy ways.
I practice this. I understand you're disappointed we have to leave. It's normal to feel that way. But it's not okay to throw sand everywhere. Let's take some deep breaths like we did the other day. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Great job taking deep breaths and calming yourself, sweetheart.
Resilient children are better able to handle life's ups and downs, and teaching your child how to manage your feelings is one of the many ways you can help. For more expert advice on raising resilient children, visit strongforlife.com.
So that was just a good example of invite them to your calm, don't subscribe to their chaos. But I like that too, because you're also setting a boundary. Like, okay, your feelings are normal, but we're not throwing sand, right? And that goes for, I think, a kid at any age. Obviously, as they get older, they're learning different ways to cross the boundary, whether that's pounding on your door or, throwing something across the room. Having them understand, like, I understand that you're upset, and it's now putting me into the yellow zone or the red zone, but it is not okay to pound on my door like that. And still having them understand that there are boundaries, even though they're older. Because obviously as a toddler, we're teaching them all the boundaries, right? But an older child knows most of the boundaries, but they need to be reminded, like, this, you have crossed a boundary of mine. And just like your brother, bugging you is one of the things that pushes your buttons. It pushes my buttons when you pound on the wall and pound on my door, or you throw something across the door, or you say this to me, right? So that way they're aware as well of the boundaries that are in place. Kids love the model of your lid flipping. We always tell them this is your brain. And then when your lid is flipped, this is your amygdala, and this is where your fight, flight, and freeze response come from. Your amygdala doesn't think, it just does. So that's what makes us want to, like, throw things or scream. So they love that analogy, because you can be like, whoa, especially the little ones, your lid is flipped. How are we going to bring it back down? Because we don't think we don't think clearly when our prefrontal cortex is not in control, right? That's what, when our lid is like this, our prefrontal cortex, which helps us make smart decisions, is in control. But when we're dysregulated, the amygdala is in charge of making us do a bunch of things.
Talk about when you are in the red, the blue, or the yellow, how to get back into the green. So we're going to talk about going into specific zones. Okay, so let's just do a quick little quiz here. I can play outdoor and enjoy the outdoors. I can read, I can study, I can help a friend. I can list what makes me feel good. What zone do you think we're in here? Great. Okay. I can get a drink of water, I can sit up straight, I can take a short walk, I can tell somebody how I feel. Great. Okay. I can stop whatever I'm doing, I can step back and think, I can ask for a break, I can ask for help. Okay. I can close my eyes and count to 20, I can take deep breaths, I can think of a place where I feel safe, I can write, talk, or draw about what I do.
Yeah, so which strategies do you think would match the zone? So like, what zone might you be in if you're needing to use these strategies?
Okay.
Blue, yep. And then what strategies might you be in if you need to stop whatever I'm doing,
Oh, no.
take a break, ask for help, and step back and think?
That's right.
Red.
Yeah.
And then I can close my eyes, count, take a deep breath. I can think of a place where I feel safe or write or draw down. See? There you go. They're all good strategies, yes, so they can all help you get to the green zone. All right.
Okay, all right. So here's what I want you to do. There's a body of research by a man named Howard Gardner talking about multiple intelligences. So we're going to take a multiple intelligence test for you as parents. Go and scan the QR code. You're going to be asked a series of very short questions, and it's going to give you your score at the end. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to, obviously they make a lot of sense. So musical, those are for children and for you, that if you can listen to a song one time, you know the tune, the melody, you like pick up lyrics. If that's your kid, they might have multiple musical intelligence. Kinesthetic is those tangible, hands-on. So if you have a child, like I think my third child can watch something on TV and then replicate it with his body. So typically those are kids that are into sports, they're into dance. If they could watch a dance and then replicate it with their body, they don't need a whole lot of teaching. You can tell that they just get the mechanics of it. Interpersonal is being able to interact with others. We talked about that EQ. If they could go into a social setting and they understand the little social nuances of interacting with others, right? And it could be that they could go, I don't know about you, but I have 3 different children and 3 different personalities. And my oldest one is one of those kids that he can walk on to a team, people like him immediately, has very good interpersonal intelligence. My daughter, on the other hand, is like, you are guilty until I prove you innocent. So she is a totally different personality, came from the same womb, but different personalities, right? Next, linguistic is that's a type of person that learns languages very well, picks up on all of the Latin roots, so you can understand that they have an affinity for words and languages. Next, mathematical, that's a number cruncher, right? Naturalistic is like if they understand nature and how it works, and they like tend to gravitate toward being in nature. Intrapersonal is, let's say for example, it sounds like Emily, your daughter might be intrapersonal, where she knows how to regulate, she knows the words, she has a very introspective understanding of herself.
Whether she does it or not is the
Right. Well, and she's still young, right? And then the last one is one of those visual spatial, right? So it's one of those people, if you take them to a city, they've maybe been there before, and they know how to get back on the freeway, they can give you directions. Those are like those visual learners. Or they see something one time, and they can automatically take that picture in their head. So I want you guys to think about this as how you learn. You have multiple ways that you feel more affinity to learn.
Your child's intelligence, right, and how they learn. So when you're coming to them with different strategies, kind of connect it to how they learn.
Okay, so we're going to take you on a role play and practice. So we're going to do this one together. Practice scenario. While Alex was playing the piano, Alex's little sister bit him. He clenches his fist, his face is flushed, ready to confront his sister. Everybody, what zone is he in? Red. Okay, red. Because he clenches his fist, because he's ready, fight or flight, right? So what we want to do is we are going to go through a walk of all of these different scenarios. So and each of them you all have a different take on how to bring each kiddo back to the green zone. So we're going to start off with scenario 1. Well, Alex was playing the piano. Alex's little sister bit him, and now he's livid with anger. He's currently in the red zone. What can you do as a parent to help him bring him back to the green zone? So those of you that wrote some stickies, some of you guys, can you give me some of your suggestions? How to get Alex to come back to the green? Okay, a hug. Okay. Okay, removing him from the room. So this group here. Yeah.
Removing them from each other, start naming the emotions.
Okay, perfect. So what I want you to think is you already kind of know roughly your children and their multiple intelligence, right? And then remember we put those dots representing the developmental age group. So what I want you to think is if you have a child that is in infancy, so baby to about 1 year old, we talk about co-regulation, right? Babies, they are emotionally dysregulated. Their bodies are not their own. They feel like your body and their body is together. So you think about that developmental age group is lots of sensory and touching. So it's rocking back and forth, you know? And I would like to invite you guys sometimes, like if you can think about this for a moment, those of you that have young children, inviting them to come onto your body and using that like idea of the vagus nerve and really trying to soothe, co-regulate, rocking back and forth, light touch. If they're musical, especially with littles, using like a hum or a lullaby, not engaging them in a conversation, but as you're touching them, sensory, okay? For toddlers is that transitional object. You know how they have like their little binky, or they might have like a little plushie, something that they carry everywhere with them. Is sometimes like, okay, do we want to bring my daughter, when she was little, she used to have several different dogs, Black Doggy, Blue Doggy, and Luna from Yo Gabba Gabba. And so we would take that everywhere with us. So that transitional object really helps. If you have a preschooler, remember we talked about modeling and coaching. So maybe even talking about, like, okay, right now, I can tell that you're in the red zone. And right now we need to be able to come back. So right now, remember, if they're high, you go low. You're going to use a very quiet, soft voice, and then like model how to get back into the green zone. So right now, if I'm feeling, right, you're putting yourself into those shoes. If I'm feeling red, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take lots of deep breaths. Another thing that you could do, because we talk about belly breathing, so again, we're creating that universal language between all of us. What we do is put our hands on our belly, we breathe in, and we breathe out through our nose. A guided visualization strategy would be to have them picture a bowl of soup. So, okay, so what is your favorite soup? My daughter's favorite soup is homemade chicken noodle. And so we picture the steam coming up. We talk about the big chunks. What would you like in your soup? I want big chunks of carrots. Make sure that they're carrot coins, okay? Close your eyes and then take them in that visual process with you. Carrot coins, what else is in the soup? Chunks of celery. Yes, do you want those chunks of chicken like ripped up? Yeah. No, I want the cute pieces of chicken. Excellent. Okay, what kind of noodles? Do you want those fat noodles? And so it's a really like guided imagery to get them to regulate, right? So that's like that particular age group. And then for the, like we talked about teenagers, right? A lot of times if they're in this and they're triggered by something else that happened, but this is just the tipping point that pushed them over the edge, we call it a cognitive reframe, because they could be thinking, well, what? I played soccer and I'm dysregulated and I'm tired and now my sister, everybody's against me. You know, how you hear that talk. Okay, what part of that is true? Let's scan. Does everybody really hate you? Who likes you? The reframe. Okay, invite them into that. So, that's scenario 1. Let's move on to scenario 2. Tisha's been feeling lethargic and sluggish from her soccer tournament. You have to ask her, to join the family for meals. And she's refusing to put away her laundry, do any of the chores. How do we get back to the green zone?
What did you guys share for that scenario? What were some ideas?
Okay,
Yeah.
Basic needs,
It's
going
some
back to the
hydration.
Yes. Anything else over here? Some movement. Yes, lethargic. Remember we talked about going the opposite. So if they are in the lethargic blue zone, getting up. Let's get, your blood pumping, right? Excellent job. And I want you to think about all those developmental age levels. If they're a music person and they're musically inclined, maybe putting on some music and then doing a quick little dance, or yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then scenario 3, Shane has to perform for her school performance. He feels knots in his stomach and starts to sweat, expressing concerns about stumbling over his parts in the play. He's acting out at home. Okay, so that's the antecedent, right? Is the anticipatory anxiety for the performance, but now you see it's like being projected at home, right? What zone is he in, everybody? Yellow. And then how do we get a child that obviously is not a performance child? How do we get him back into the green? So is that what you think? If they're yellow and they have a particular intelligence, talk to
I feel
them.
you're feeling a little anxiety. Is there anything I can do to help with that? You want to run your lines one more time?
Yeah.
You want to, especially if it's perform for something, you validate. I noticed even worse with my first grader, like that validation of like, it's okay to be angry, or it's okay to feel nervous. And mommy will be nervous too.
Yes.
It's like, hey, you want to snuggle us up, like those kind of things. Just validating.
I like the one on there, like maybe visualize himself performing well, or saying positive affirmations together, saying, I got this. Like, if I make a mistake, that's all right. Humans make mistakes, So kind of running through, if it does happen, it's happened to all of us, right? But let's think of some positive.
Okay, so right now you have received a zones chart is laminated, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to invite you into creating zones in your family system. So right now we're just going to be passing out these magnets. What we would like you to do is for every family member in your household, you are going to create a magnet. So you can take a picture of them and then put it in the back, and then find a place in your home. It could be your landing pad, or probably like a mud zone, like a mud area, right? Or it could be the refrigerator. But basically, let me get a picture of what this looks